I'm wrestling, do not weep for me. Celebrate what I am. Celebrate what I have been. Celebrate what I represent. And celebrate the many ways I have impacted your life. I will survive this test as I have survived others. I am forever etched into the very fiber of all mankind. The world needs me. Time is on my side. History guarantees me. I am wrestling. Do not wait for me.
What's up, everybody? This is Ben Funky Askren, and you're listening to episode 36 of the T-Row and Funky Show. I'm here, as always, with my host, Tommy Rollins, and we have a very special episode because we are going to do the top 10 American wrestlers of all time. Tommy, I'm looking forward to this episode. What about you?
I'm really excited. I think it's going to get contentious.
It could. So just so all the people know, we were supposed to do this last week. I got caught up. I had Funky Fresh Camp going on. We just weren't able to do it. But this all started a couple weeks ago. I remember I was in the car in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was headed to have dinner with a college buddy. And you sent me a list of your top 10 American wrestlers of all time, just kind of out of the blue. So what made you make that list? I guess I never even asked you that.
I got into a debate with my college buddies and coaches, Mitch Clark, Russ Hellickson, Blake Kaplan, Johnny Clark, Casey Kaputska, all guys that wrestled Ohio State, national champs, All-Americans, Olympians. So pretty informed group. And we got into the debate. And while I was debating, I decided to share with you. And it caused you and I to get into a debate. And now we're here. And I think, maybe we should do this after we give our top 10 or maybe before. But the vagueness of top 10 American wrestlers ever is, we don't.
No, we should do this before. I think we have to define the criteria we're putting our list by. And you and I did not define it before. We
each have our own criteria. That's part of the debate.
Sure. So let's talk about it. So, and I want to say first and foremost, it was very disappointing. I was trying to Google top 10 American wrestlers, and I couldn't find any real good lists. I mean, they didn't even exist, which kind of made me go crazy because I thought Intermat, the Flow Wrestling, the Mat, someone would have a list of top 10 American wrestlers or a decent article written up about it. So we're going to have to get someone to transcribe this podcast and put it into some kind of article.
I'm in, man. This is fun stuff. I think the biggest discussion is going to be the opening discussion, which is what is your criteria?
Sure. So you want to go your criteria first?
Because here's the thing is if we're if my criteria is different than yours, then that's going to cause us to debate the rest of the discussion.
But at this point, since there are no lists of the top 10 American wrestlers, there are no hard and fast rules. So because we're one of the first people doing it, we get to define the rules we play by, and we both are coming to this discussion with our own set of rules. So maybe you're going to say something, I'm going to say, well, you're right, and maybe I'm going to say something, you're going to say, well, you're kind of right on that. And then obviously, I don't think we'll be the last people to ever discuss the top 10 American wrestlers. So hopefully, when people discuss it in the future, they're gonna, be able to bring something we brought to the playing field, to their discussion, to what's going to define what the top 10 is.
Absolutely.
So I'll go first with mine, since I offered it to you. You didn't go. So I'm going to say a couple things. So, now, I did a lot of research because I didn't want to come into this discussion with no ammunition and kind of look like a doofus. So I did some research, and I will say I am weighing freestyle and folk style credentials. As far as Greco is concerned, we've never had a dominant enough American at Greco to be considered for what I would consider the top 10. And then furthermore, they've never been, there's never been a high-level Greco wrestler who's had sustained success on the collegiate level either. So I would say I'm giving international credentials preference over NCAA credentials. And I know that one of the things you were going to say is that the NCAA is an age group, but let's face it, that's the highest level of folk style wrestling in America. In the world. That's the highest level of folk style wrestling in the world. And freestyle and folk style are different sports. They might not be very different, but they are definitely different. You could come up with examples of certain people who've had success in one but not in the other. For example, Jamil Kelly, Olympic silver medalist, never had any level of success in folk style wrestling. Or, go to Pat Smith, obviously probably easy top 10 college best wrestler. Never had, I don't believe he ever made a team. And Stieber's headed that way right now. And I talked about Stieber and Snyder before. Snyder lost 4 matches, lost 4 collegiate matches to guys who weren't great, didn't win an NCAA title, wins a world title. Stieber freaking kills everyone in the NCAA and can't make the damn team. So freestyle and folk style are definitely different sports. So I'm definitely waiting. I would say somewhere around 60-40, 70-30. I'm weighting international results greater, but I am definitely
60-40, 70-30.
Somewhere in there, probably 70-30 is probably more fair. But I'm definitely giving some credence to a person's NCAA results.
Okay. I share a similar approach, but probably different weights. I do believe that the NCAA level, although it is the highest level for a specific style in wrestling, we're talking about the sport of wrestling, not a specific style. And so that's why you can only put so much credence in it, in my opinion. Additionally, it is an age group that cannot be refuted or disputed. It is an age group classification. And it's only in the United States, so it's not a global approach. We're talking about the greatest American wrestlers ever. Sure. And so to all of those things, I am pleasantly surprised at the way that you weighted it, Ben, that you still put more credence in international performance, but you still tipped your cap to folk style, to the NCAA level, which I did to an extent. But I think when you see my list, you'll see that I'm probably 85% international career, 15% collegiate. And I think that's by and large because I think that you have to acknowledge it's the highest level in the sport.
Yeah.
And so I don't think I don't think we're disagreeing on that. I think we're probably going to end up disagreeing fundamentally about.
I'm laughing because your kids are scrapping back there in the background. That's freaking hilarious.
They're upstairs, but this microphone picks everything up. But anyways, oh geez, is it ruining the podcast, Ben?
No, it's great. I think listen, Tommy Rollins has 2 very aggressive twin boys that are 4 years old. Gonna be hammers. Just watch out in about 14 years for them.
Yeah. Hey boys, you gotta. Oh, they're screaming.
Hilarious.
My wife will handle it. But anyways,
okay.
I guess the point I was getting at is that. If we looked at any other sport, which wrestling is its own sport, so it has its own scale. And that's why we are giving so much credence, whether it's 15% credence to collegiate or 30 to 40% collegiate for you, regardless, Ben, even the 15 I'm giving it is more than what people give to any other sport for the collegiate dominance that somebody has.
Yeah.
Archie Griffin.
So you are then definitely giving credence to the fact that they are different sports. Folk style and freestyle are different sports.
They're different sports, okay. and I am saying that there's legitimacy to suggesting that what happens in the NCAA folk style deserves more credit than perhaps the collegiate level in football or the collegiate level in basketball or some So I understand the dynamic where we need to acknowledge and tip our cap to the collegiate level, but I'm not going to give it as much as maybe other people would, and that's because I think global dominance in your sport is the deal. That is the standard. We are splitting hairs here because we're talking about the best ever. So if I'm going to split hairs, I'm not going to go with who is the most popular or who got the most articles written about them in amateur wrestling news, or who has the most Twitter followers, or who is the most well known because of a certain college they wrestled for. I'm going for global dominance. That is my main priority, but I am going to tip the cap to significant level of success at the collegiate level due to it is a different style, due to the fact that it is heralded to some extent, not even to some extent, to a large extent in our country. So I am going to acknowledge that, give it a little bit of credence on my scale, but not as much as you from what I gather.
Okay, cool. And one other thing I want to hit up because I think it is important to discuss, and I don't think this had a high level of I don't think it had a huge effect. It had the ability to have an effect, but I don't think it had a huge effect on my list. And that is Two things. So number one, I wanted to research historical brackets, right? And like I said, there's no one's made a top 10 list. Additionally, there's no historical research you can do on international level wrestling, Tommy. It's so freaking frustrating.
Right.
I mean, on Wikipedia, you can find the place winners, the bronze, gold, silver, and bronze. That's freaking about it. You can't find match results. You can't find brackets. You can't find number of participants. You can't find all of that stuff. But one thing that I do think is very important to note is that between the USSR and Yugoslavia, those two countries split into 21 different countries, all of which who wrestle.
Correct.
So when you're looking at brackets, around 40 at the World Championships now, I think obviously the bracket. So I didn't see a bracket because I couldn't freaking find one from the 70s or 80s. But I think you're going to be looking at significantly smaller brackets and also significantly easier brackets because those USSR countries, a lot of them are very, very competitive on the world level. I mean, Azerbaijan, Georgia, I believe, won a team world championship at some point. Uzbekistan's very good. Ukraine's good. So not only are we splitting into 2 countries to 21 countries, but we're also unleashing a lot of the best wrestlers, into the world championship brackets, thus making it harder. And then the second point there is that we've went from 10 weight classes to 6. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I'm completely with you, man. And I get in this debate with my old ball coach, Russ Hellickson, who's like a second father to me. And, facts are facts. And when you go from 10 weight classes to 6, and when you go from the best country being broken up into 21 different republics, for the most part, you're going to get a tougher field. Not even for the most part. You're just absolutely going to get a tougher field. Yep. It doesn't take anything away from what our American wrestlers did 30, 40, 20 years ago. It doesn't take anything away from them because you can only be number one. You can only defeat all of the challenges that are put in front of you. So
definitely,
I can't fault them. Oh, he was an Olympic. Well, he couldn't have done anything more. His job was to win, and he won.
Yeah.
So definitely. I'm not taking away from that, but you have to be a realistic person. Take a step back and say it's harder now. Now that doesn't mean that Dan Gable wouldn't have won at this level. In fact, I think he would have, and I think he would have been just as dominant. But it is harder now than it was then. For
sure. And so one stat I want to throw out here, I think this is very poignant and very important to note. When you take the Olympics from 1972 to the year 2000, I'll take out 1984, okay, because 84 obviously won 9 out of 10 medals because of the boycott by the USSR and other USSR-related countries. So I'll take that one out. From 72 to 2000, we won 57% of the medals. From 2004 to 2012, we won 30% of the medals. So, we're roughly winning half the amount of medals we used to. Obviously, a large part of that is due to the country splitting up. And another thing I think we're seeing in the USSR and old former USSR countries is that there's a lot more wealth than there used to be because they found oil in the Caspian. So a lot of those countries, while they might not be super rich, they're definitely a lot wealthier than they have been, which has allowed them to provide wrestlers with the conditions they need to. I mean,
I can already hear the old timers just ripping on you and I right now, Bren.
Well, the old timers are going to make the list, so they aren't going to be able to be too pissed off.
But yeah, I got plenty of old timers on my list.
But to not acknowledge those facts, I think I think it's important. I think we got to acknowledge the dynamics. I mean, it's like Tommy, if I say, well, it's 10 to 6, and you say, well, that doesn't freaking matter. I said, well, if there's one weight class, how many world titles does John Smith win?
Correct.
Well, he don't win shit. He don't make a team.
Doesn't make a team. So the other thing, and I'm going to, I believe this is a fact, but I can't verify it 100%. I'm hoping it's one of our listeners verifies this for me. But simple math will tell you that 40 years ago when there was one Russia and there was 10 weight classes, 10 weight classes times 3 medals at the time. That's 30 medals. There's only 10 Russians. So the Russians could never win more than 33% of the medals.
Yeah. Now they're winning more. I did.
Yeah. So I think, and I don't know where I heard this, but I'm pretty sure it's a fact. The last 3 or 4 Olympics, Soviet republics have won greater than 50% of the medals.
That I believe that is true, Tommy. And I did it one year. I think there was 9 different old Russian republics won medals. when I was looking through the World Championship results. So, yeah, I do believe that is a fact.
Yeah, I'm hoping somebody can verify that for us. I think they will. We've got enough followers now where they're shooting us between the eyes on, not saying things completely true. So I think they'll help us out here.
The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So, Tommy, are we going to go from bottom to top to bottom? And then I got 5 honorable mentions, which didn't quite make the list, but they were definitely in contention for being on the list.
I think we should. I don't know, man. Like, okay, so let's just go bottom to top, and if we get to like 7 and it's been 20 minutes, we just got to start going faster. If that makes sense.
Okay. So do I get to tell my honorable mentions before we start, or no? Or should I save those?
I think we say number 10, and then say these are the guys I struggled with putting above him. Maybe. I don't know.
You know what? We might have to go from 1 down because otherwise it's going to get harder because I don't want to grill you on who, why don't you have this guy and he's actually at number 6 for you and not, you know what I'm saying? So maybe we go 1 down.
Okay.
Right.
Whatever you think.
Number 1 is
John W. Smith.
His middle name is what's his middle name?
I don't know. I know it's John W.
Okay, I got John Smith. I think I want to say that's if you poll 100 American wrestling fans, that's pretty obvious across the board.
It's not as obvious as you think.
It is. Why not?
No. It's obvious to you and me.
Okay.
It's not as obvious to others as you would think.
Really?
I hear a lot of old timers say Gable.
That's crazy talk to me.
It is crazy talk. I mean, he was incredible, and I'm sure he's going to be in your top 10, but he is not number 1. J-Dubs, 2 NCAA titles, 6 consecutive golds, retired when he was 27 years old to be the head coach of Oklahoma State. He's the guy. He has the throne.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think there's anything there I disagree with. Oopsies. Hold on. I clicked on a match. I meant to click on a link. I'm still searching for information while I'm on here. So, yeah, I got John Smith. And, not only obviously 6 years in a row, but the amount of dominance he had there was it was amazing. I mean, he's just so good at what he did.
It's kind of hard to talk about him because we're both just totally agreeing, and we feel like it's ridiculous if anybody disagrees. So John Smith.
John Smith. All right, let's go. Next on the list, who's your number 2? Listen, you go evens, I'll go odds.
Okay. All right, number 2, Bruce Baumgartner, NCAA champion.
Yep.
So he got it done in college. 13 world medals.
Most ever.
5 golds. 1 less than John Smith.
Yep. What else?
So, other than the simple fact that, and I'm a heavyweight. So,
so you're showing
other than the fact that he was at a weight class that wasn't as widely participated globally, there are some circumstances that allow you to maintain sustained excellence in those weight categories as opposed to the lighter ones. I mean, if it weren't for that, if Bruce Baumgartner was a 13-time world medalist, 5-time gold at like a 184 or above, I mean, I think he'd be number 1. What do you think?
I think it's hard to say. There's obviously this debate, and we kind of hit on this when we were talking, I think it was on the phone, but when you have, obviously, sustained excellence versus where their peak was, right? And Bruce, the thing is, no one's ever wrestled as long as him. And, to get back to John Smith, I was talking to Chael about our list the other day, and, I heard John Smith was killing Eric Guerrero in 2004, which is 12 years after time. No, it's wrestling room stuff. I can't prove it. But so, if John Smith continues to compete, how many more world medals does he win?
Right, but we cannot. This argument that we're having. It's not an argument, but this discussion we're having right now is going to become a recurring theme because I don't believe we should reward people for how good they would have been if they had kept going.
Sure.
And
I can agree with that.
So, John Smith, yes, I do agree. He probably, if I were a betting man,
he tech-fault Brands in 92,
and
Brands
if I were
won
a betting
the
man,
World Championship in 93.
If I were a betting man, I would have given John Smith at least 10 total medals. He got 6, and possibly more. You never know at those lighter weights. Sometimes you can fall off the deep end pretty quick. You tear an ACL, you lose a half a step.
Yeah.
But I probably would have given him another 4 medals couple golds probably in the next quad. So anyways, but I'm not going to reward him. I'm not going to give anybody credit for how good they would have been if they would have kept going. It means nothing to me. When you hang up your shoes, you hang up your shoes. I do agree. There's plenty of people. We're going to get into Gable. We're going to get into Sanderson. We're going to get into a lot of guys that had they kept going, they probably would have had more accolades, more achievement, but they didn't. So to me, I siphon it off. Their career is over. The reasons why are irrelevant. And so anyways, Baumgartner, to me, the only reason he's really not number one, quite honestly, is the weight category he was in. And I'm in that weight class, so it's probably easier for me to talk about and not seem like a discriminatory prick.
Discriminatory was big men.
And it's not about the style or I hate it when people talk about, heavyweights don't have the appropriate amount of technique. It's like, listen, it's physics, okay? So they can't do the same gyrations as in tight spaces as a little guy.
Gyrations. That's what you were doing Saturday night on the couch when you were impersonating Martin.
That's right, exactly. But anyways, it's just it's about the participation in the sport at that level. It's about the ability to maintain sustained excellence for a while. I just the other
thing you haven't mentioned yet. And you kind of hit on it, but you haven't said the words, right, Tommy?
Right.
Is there's just not as many people there. When you look at the population demographics, most people weigh 150 to 170 pounds. So
and I've always and since I'm a heavyweight, I can talk more about it and not. It's just I feel like remember when I was talking about the old guys 10 minutes ago, and I said, listen, you can't take anything away from them because you can only reach the pinnacle. You can't reach the pinnacle in another hypothetical universe to make people happy with you. And that all heavyweights can do is be number one. Yep. So, I mean, if they could shrink themselves, they maybe they would, but they can't. So the only thing they can do is win their weight, and they do it.
Sure. So
anyways, Baumgartner's number two to me. Is Baumgartner number two? If he's not, I'm gonna be mind.
Burroughs is my number two.
Okay, I guess.
And here's where I'm gonna go. He's won 4 already. There's likely gonna be a 5th in about a week. So I'm going to go put that one in the bank. And then the 1 year he didn't win, he did have a severe knee injury. And with Bruce, when I look at it, he goes, so 83 was his first world championship. He goes bronze, gold in 84, which is a very questionable, when you don't include the countries that were there.
Well, the only reason it's not questionable is because what he did after that.
Okay, but then you go bronze again in 85, gold in 86, back to bronze in 87, 88 silver. So listen, he's always around the top, but we're also talking right now, in all those years, Tommy, we're talking about a dynamic where there's not 11 Russians in the weight class, where there's one.
Right.
I mean, he's got to deal with one Russian.
We are splitting hairs, and I guess I said I'd be mind blown if Baumgartner's not your number two. I spoke too soon. Burroughs is the only one that I'm like, okay, I mean, I'm not putting him at number two, but I got you. You know what I mean? I get it.
Yeah, so kind of an up and down career. Obviously, wins at 93 and 95. So his longevity is freaking amazing. Bruce is, but I got to give Burroughs my spot. The number 2 spot. I think he's gonna have 5 next week. And kind of on the John Smith tangent is not only has Burroughs won, but he rarely has close matches. I mean, rarely.
Yeah, Burroughs is like 132-2.
Yeah.
And it's like we got Kale who went 159-0 at an age group classification in the United States. I mean, Burroughs is, with the exception of a tie to Marable in Turkey and a loss to Sargush. Was it Sargush? Yeah, Sargush with a blown knee. I mean, this guy could have a Kale-esque record at the highest level.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I'm with you. I got you. As you could imagine, go ahead and say your number 3. I'm sure it's Bruce.
Lee Kemp.
Oh my gosh.
All right, here I'm going to go on Kemp. Let me go before
you
say it's stupid.
This is just stupid.
Before you say it's stupid.
This is just
Can you let me talk?
Stupid.
You got to hear my argument before you.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, are you ready yet?
I'm finally mad. I'm mad about this one. I don't even know if I'm ready. I love Lee Kemp. He's an Ohio boy.
Yeah. So let me give you some good reasoning. So number 1, He's 3-time NCAA champion. His only loss is in sudden victory in overtime, right?
Yagla.
Okay, to Chuck Yagla. So you could legitimately put him on the top 10 NCAA careers, where you can't put Bruce really very close to that list. I mean, he has one NCAA title.
So now we're getting into our scale, how we weighted it.
Sure. Number 2 would be he beat Dan Gable in 75, which I'm going to use that against Dan Gable when we're talking about how good Dan Gable could have been. He beat Dan Gable in 75, and in 1975...
Why does that matter if Gable's not ranked above Kemp in your list?
Here's why it matters, because he was so good. He was 19 years old. And then number 3 is he wins world titles in 78, 79, and 81. Listen, Tommy, he's freaking winning in 80. And he won a tournament called the Super World Championships, which I tried to do more research on, but wrestling has no freaking data. I'm pretty sure it's a separate world championship they held for all the wrestlers to attend, since all the wrestlers did not go to the Moscow Games in 80.
But but here's the thing.
So wait, listen. So legitimately, Lee Kemp won 4 world titles in a row, which has never been done by an American except for John W. Smith, which I did not know his real name was W. So I got him number 2.
But Lee Kemp didn't win 4 world titles in a row.
Give it to him. 80s bullcrap.
No, I can't. It is bullcrap.
He won the Super World Championship.
We're splitting hairs here, Ben. We're splitting hairs here. Okay, life isn't fair, and I understand. I bet on Kemp to win in 80. I understand the math. I get it. He won in 79 and 81. I know he won in 78 too. I'm giving it to him in 80, but it didn't happen. It did not happen. And life's not fair. I can't believe you got him ahead of Bruce. Bruce got 13.
It might as well have happened. It might as well have happened. He was 19 years old when he beat Gable in 1975.
Whatever.
Listen, I don't know what to tell you. He would have won.
Okay.
He was winning in 80.
My 3, it's just, whatever. I mean, I
don't know this dude won. I don't know this dude ever lost. He got gold at the Super World Championships. He got gold at the World Cup every year. He got gold to Pan Am.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know where he lost.
I don't know why I'm so mad. Oh, whoopsie.
Won 7 United States Freestyle Championships.
I don't know why I'm so mad. I mean, he's pretty high on my list. I just can't. Even though he's pretty high on my list, I'm not going to give it away.
Okay,
I'm just mad. I'm just mad you got him ahead of Baumgartner. That's all.
Well, Baumgartner is my 4 to give it away.
Yeah. No. Okay. So
if I put him any lower, you're going to go on suicide watch.
Well, you got to respect the heavyweights.
Listen, four titles in a row Kemp would have had. No one else has done that.
But he didn't get 4 titles in a row.
But it's not his freaking fault.
Well, it's not his fault. If he would have
politician's fault.
Listen, if he would have got hit by a car on the way to the Olympic
let me ask you a
final.
question, Tommy. What is this Super World Championships in Nagoya in 1980? Because he won that.
It sounds like an age group. It sounds like the Disney duels.
It sounds like the Disney duels or
something.
The freaking Martians also.
You know what they had in 81? They had the Super Duper World Championships. The World Championships are the World Championships. Here's the thing, Ben. If we wrestled in 80 in Moscow and Lee Kemp
wins.
No, listen. So we're in the Olympics in Moscow. It's not boycotted. Lee Kemp gets in a car accident on the way to the first round and doesn't wrestle. You would not have the same opinion that you have now from the boycott.
He would have won there too.
You have sympathy for the boycott. If it was just a life isn't fair circumstance outside of the boycott, which is highly publicized, you wouldn't be giving him as much credit. I don't think you would be.
Yeah, maybe not. But
all right.
He
anyways,
won an 80, I think.
All right. I shouldn't be that mad about that one. He's an Ohio guy. He was incredible. And yeah, his collegiate career is...
Tommy, can someone tell us what the damn Super World Championships is?
It's the Super Duper World Championships.
Shut up.
No, it was a big deal. I remember. I've heard it get talked about.
Okay.
My number 3 is Burroughs.
Okay.
I do think that after next week, he'll win gold. I think after he wins that, I will put him ahead of Baumgartner. I think.
I already have that one in the bank, so...
But that hasn't happened yet. Well, you're giving credit for things that haven't happened.
I just wish I could bet on it, Tommy, because I'd put a lot of money on it.
Do you think... I
don't think they're taking lines anywhere.
Now that we've both ranked Burroughs, do you think Burroughs when his career is over, that greater than half of the United States population will say that he's better than John Smith?
Yeah, I think, especially if you win. Obviously, if you win 7, it's not really debatable. I don't think.
Right. Yeah, I'm taking Burrows as the best ever in 2020. If we did this again, I think we'll be saying it's Burrows.
Definite possibility. Definite possibility. I'm really curious to see if they change the weight classes afterward, because Bender very much hinted at that when we were on this podcast, and maybe they'll make it more, so that it might even make it easier to win a world title for him. But if the weight classes do change significantly, 74 kilos, however, has been one of those weight classes that stuck around. 74 kilos existed in 72, 76, 80, 84, 88, 90, every Olympics, I believe. I don't think there was an Olympics without 74 kilos. Maybe I believe it was 76 and 2000, and that might have been the only year. Mm-hmm. So, okay, let's go. So, I already told you who my 4
I'm
was.
doing 4. Yeah, anyways. My 4 is the Ohio man, Lee Kemp.
Okay, so so our 2, 3, and 4 are the same. In fact,
I know it wasn't that you had Kemp so high; it was that you had Kemp above Baumgartner that bothered me. But
we should do a poll on our Twitter next week.
Kemp,
who's the better American wrestler? Kemp.
It is amazing because Kemp was a 3-time champ, 4-time finalist in college. Won the world 78, 79, 81. Obviously, 80 didn't happen. We know why. Theoretically, he was heavily favored to have 4 golds. And then I don't know what happened in 82. No. 82, he got a bronze. And then in 83, he lost to Dave Schultz.
84, he lost to Schultz. You're right.
I thought
84.
Yeah. So it was 82, he took a year off and didn't medal, and then in 83 he got a bronze. And then in 84 he got beat off the team by Dave Schultz, who is going to be, if he's not in your top 10, you got a hole in your head. So he was bumped out by a guy in the top 10. So for all of those reasons, he is number 4 to me. He is a clear number 4 to me, to be honest. My 4 were easy. After that, it got hard.
Okay. So let's go 5.
Your 4 is Baumgartner.
Baumgartner. So you're even. So I'm odds. So my number 5 would be Cael Sanderson.
Yeah. Well.
So Cael Sanderson, obviously,
now we're getting into the weighted, how we have different weights for our skill.
Number 1 college career ever, obviously. Wins the Olympic gold in 2004. World silver medalist in 2003. And then, the other thing here and you said we can't count this, but I can count this because he did come back and compete. 7 years later, he came out of retirement, and he got 5th in the world, and he beat a world silver medalist, Jake Herbert, twice in a row, fairly easily to make the team. So, that's 7 years, and, I remember seeing Cael at the 04 trials, and then later I heard this story, but I remember just seeing he just had this weight on his chest, Tommy? It was like he had this weight on his chest, and he was just so stressed out by competition, probably because everyone thought he couldn't lose and there was only one. But I heard he actually tried to go home. Remember, he lost to Lee Fullhart in the second match. I heard he tried to go home and said, I'm done, I'm out of here. Bobby Douglas and his dad
I've heard the same story.
Talk him off the ledge and say, come back and wrestle. He wins the trials, wins the Olympics, and it goes down in history. But so, to that point, I think in 04, after 04, because of how great Cael's college career was, he had this weight on him that made it tough for him to continue to compete too long internationally, because he just felt all this immense pressure as the American hope, as this guy who was unbeatable, and that really weighed down his international career. Because I think if he doesn't have that, he's just calm, easy, he's happy, go lucky, kicking ass, taking names. I think he continues to compete for a long time and win a lot of world medals.
Well, he's great, and he's great. It's just like our honorable mention is great. Tommy. So this is the top 10 of all time. So every one of these wrestlers will be very, very great. Yeah, he's phenomenal. He had the greatest collegiate wrestling career of all time, similar to that of someone like Archie Griffin, who won 2 Heisman trophies, but even more so. He's clearly the best collegiate wrestler ever. But but I think that there's probably 10 plus American wrestlers that have had a better international career than Kale.
I agree with that.
And since my weight is so heavily on international, he's not my number 5.
Okay.
My number 5 is Dave Schultz.
No, boo.
Dave Schultz.
How do you have Dave ahead of Mark?
Because Mark has 3 golds. Dave has 7 medals.
Not 3 golds though.
Right. He doesn't have 3 golds. Dave, to me, is a I don't even want to say watered down, but he is Baumgardner-esque in terms of accolades,
sure,
but obviously not at as high of a level. Dave had sustained excellence to the point he beat Lee Kemp off of the Olympic team in '84.
Yep. But his college career was fairly underwhelming. Are you just going to throw that?
He got an NCAA title, is what I'm saying.
He got 1.
Yep.
But we're talking about 10 greatest Americans of all time. 1 is not very good.
No, his off the mat impact and significance and prowess globally, and how I traveled the world for 8 years, and with the exception of Dan Gable and John Smith, the Russians always talk to us about Dave Schultz.
Yeah.
And so, I they wanted to talk about Gable, they wanted to talk about Smith, and then it was Dave Schultz. And so maybe I'm putting too much into that. Maybe I'm a little bit nostalgic in that sense, but I just think he's on the mat. I'm not talking about off the mat. On the mat, he is a slightly lesser version of Baumgardner, and I got him at number 5. Similar circumstances,
sure,
but just not quite as not as many medals and titles.
Yeah, I think it is kind of hard to
7 medals, dude.
7 medals, but
that's the second
always
most.
2 were
that's
gold.
That's the second most in American history.
You're right, but only 2 were gold, and only 1 was not in 1984 because everybody won in 1984.
I kind of give people a pass in '84 that got the
Why?
gold. No, not a pass for all of them.
Oh,
if they had other accolades in other years that kind of helped offset the '84 gold. So you've got Baumgardner, you got Mark Schultz, you've got Dave Schultz. Those guys had so much accolades outside of the '84 Olympics that I kind of give them their gold with the same merit as if it was a normal year. Just because of that, I kind of give them a pass, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does make sense to a certain extent, but I think when you're putting them this high on the list, it's hard for me to include '84. Just because it was so. I mean, if you look at the list of medalists, it was not a tough Olympics by any extent of the imagination. Because like we talked about, there weren't that many countries, and then you take out a few of the Soviet and Soviet related countries, and you're not left with very many.
Right. Well, I've seen video of Sergei Beloglazov wrestle Barry Davis.
Yeah.
And it ain't pretty. And so there's a lot of examples of that we're splitting hairs here because Barry Davis 3-time champ, and I think he had a couple world medals. I mean, gosh, I didn't have anywhere close to that type of career, but I'm just saying that there are examples of when '84 really served people pretty well.
Yeah, and then
I guess I just feel like Dave would have figured it out, and Mark won in '85, and Bruce, he had 13 medals, so I'm just kind of giving him a pass, I think.
So for Dave, I struggle because like we talked about that those in the 70s and 80s, there's not a lot of countries, right? There's only one Russia, not 15 of them, 15 republics from Russia, and so you didn't have the deep pools like you did later on, and then furthermore. He won in '83 and '84. He never made it back to the top. He didn't. He's silver a lot. He's bronze a lot. Obviously, I'm not trying to diminish these, but when we're talking top 10, I think you gotta be picky about it. So that's why I guess I was picky on Dave. And then obviously his college career left a lot to be desired. One-time NCAA champion, 3-time All-American. Wasn't super dominant. He had to win in the criteria tiebreaker.
Crybaby.
Criteria tiebreaker in overtime. So it wasn't like he was super dominant there. So for me, Dave will be significantly lower.
He better be in your top 10.
Okay, so you're number 6. You're first on number 6.
My 6 is Mark Schultz.
Boom. My 6 is Mark Schultz.
Yeah, Mark Schultz. 3 golds. No other color medal, but 3 golds. I think he's a 2-time NCAA champ.
3-time.
Really?
Really? So he's a 3-time NCAA champ, and he went 18-18 as a freshman. Remember, he started wrestling as a junior in high school, so he went 18-18 as a true freshman. He redshirted. He wins the last 3 years, including moving up to beat a guy who made my honorable mention, Ed Bannock, stopping Ed Bannock from being the first 4-time NCAA champion of all time. Not only did he beat him, but he beat him 16-8.
Okay.
That's pretty freaking impressive.
So, yeah. Well, I'm still going to keep Mark behind Dave, but I guess I could swap. I used to think that Dave had a better overall career. Now it's kind of like interchangeable to me a little bit, but I'm sticking with Mark at number 6. 3-time NCAA champ. I thought he was 2. And then 3 gold.
A very good 3 because you're including a win over Ed Bannock, who was already a 2-time NCAA champion.
Right.
And honestly, if you give Mark Schultz a little earlier start, he probably doesn't have that 18-18 freshman season.
Right. So I got him at 6, Ben. Who's your 6? Oh, it's Mark.
My 6 is also Mark. So we're right on that one. We got
someone
different at 5.
The only real outliers that you and I have right now is Dave for me and Kale for you.
Sure.
Are different.
Yeah, definitely. And John's another one. John. I was looking at John DuPont. Mark Schultz is another one where who knows where his career could have went if he had a better training situation, and obviously the Fox catcher thing really affected him. Who knows? He could have kept winning because in '88 he was only 28 years old. So he had a few good years left in him.
Absolutely. All right, who's your 7?
My number 7 would be Tom Brands.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay, and here's why. Tom Brands, 3-time NCAA champion and 3-time world and/or Olympic champion.
That's not true.
What do you mean?
He's 2-time world and Olympic champion.
He only won 2?
Yeah.
All right, what did I miss here? Hold on. I'm going to Wikipedia him.
He
is in fact a 3-time NCAA champion.
He won in 93 and 96 at the world level. In 94, I think he lost in Turkey. I think he got 4th or something. And then in 95,
why is there not more data on this? Piss me off.
And then in 95 at the Worlds in Atlanta, I think he tanked. I'm not, if I remember correctly, he got 1st, then 4th, then he tanked, and then he won the Olympics.
There's freaking no information on his damn Wikipedia. It's pissed me off. Wow. So I guess I thought he was a 3-time world champion. Oof.
Does that change your opinion? 3 in 4 years is a lot different than 2 in 4 years.
Yeah, it is a lot different. Well, my list is made. We're this far in, Tommy. I think I'd be hard pressed to change it now. So I'll tell you, I did this. What the hell happened, Tommy?
Are we still recording?
Recording, but it looks like it started over. That's bizarre.
Okay. Well, hopefully we caught everything.
Yeah. Wow, weird. Because our call never ended. That's bizarre. We're having technical difficulties. I will tell you, I spent about 2 hours researching this last night. In between yelling at kids at our camp, our kids decided to be a little. They were being buttholes to each other. They were just trying to do pranks at night, So it was like bed checks at 10:30, and then I sat down to do research on my list. So every 15 minutes, you might
have been researching Terry. Terry won in '93 and '94.
So I might have mixed it up because I had to get up and yell at kids every 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. Nevertheless, 3-time NCAA champion, great college career, great international career, and he did retire. 28 years old was in '96, so he did retire fairly young. So I'll leave him at 7. Had I realized he was only 2-time, I might have changed it a little bit. But we'll say it's
he
done.
won in '93 and '96, and then I think Terry won
93 and 95.
Oh, 95, he won in Atlanta. Okay.
Yeah, but you know what sucks? Like this Wikipedia, I can't figure out how he did in 93 or 94. And
94, I'm pretty sure.
I was 10, Tommy, so I wasn't watching wrestling at that point.
Gotcha. Well, I was not paying attention, but I just remember things. So,
all right. Well, who's your number 7?
My 7 is Kevin Jackson.
Really?
Kevin Jackson is a 3-time world and Olympic champion. He won in 92, 91, 92, and 95. And I believe he was in the top 5 in 93 and 94.
See,
I'm sorry, no.
When I'm researching this stuff, like, it doesn't really say it anywhere. So he just said he was a member of the teams. It didn't really say how well he did.
Right. So Kevin Jackson was tough for me because, like I said, I do weight the NCAA.
And he never won a national title.
He never won a national title. I really struggled with this one, but I just think that Kevin Jackson he had one of the top 5 or 6 greatest 5-year runs in American history at the international level. And because of that, I got to give it to him. Because I think in 93 and 94, he was top 5 in the world, I think. So that means...
That's how, if they would have had brackets or something...
So that means in 91, 92, and 95, he was gold. 93 and 4, he was in the hunt. And then he got beat out unexpectedly by Gutches in 96. Otherwise, he could have defended. So anyways, that was tough for me, but I got KJ at 7.
But so he got beat out by Gutches, which is, KJ in 96 is still in his prime. He's 32. I guess it's a little later. Maybe he's slightly past his prime.
So the reason
he got beat by Gutches, a guy who does not make our top 10, in fact.
Right. The only reason KJ, I still put him at 7, so it wasn't that tough. But the reason why I struggled is because he didn't win the NCAAs. I think he's my only non-NCAA champ in my top 10, which just goes to show you how much I value the world stage.
Yeah.
It's tough for me, though. I mean, it's like I feel like I could be talked out of it, but I'm keeping KJ at 7.
Sure, yeah. And so, no, he didn't have the greatest college career, never won a title, 3-time champion. And the one thing I was told, though, is that there's this guy in Florida, I worked out with him a few times, tough as nails. He was, I guess he was a USSR guy, but he was from the Ukraine. And obviously 91, 92 is when the USSR breaks up. And he went to a protest, and someone said, "You're an athlete, you shouldn't be here," and shot him in the ankle, and he's got this big-ass scar on his ankle.
Oh, my gosh.
And so he didn't wrestle for the USSR team in 92 because he, broke his ankle and whatever else, And allegedly, that guy had beaten KJ 3 times. Allegedly.
Wow.
And there's no data, so I can't go check on it. I remember at the time trying to check on it when this guy told me this. But the guy was freaking amazing, and at the time I was working out with him, he was probably 40 to 45 years old. So I got number 7, I got Brands. You have Kevin Jackson.
That's correct.
Right. Number 8, you lead it off.
Number 8 is Tom Brands.
Oh, so we weren't far off on that.
Yeah, 3 NCAA titles, 2 world titles, 2 world and Olympic titles. Got it done at the highest level, at every level, in a pretty significant way. I won't beat a dead horse there, but yeah, he's my number 8.
Tommy, I'll tell you, I started a poll on Twitter 17 minutes ago. I have 96 votes already, and I have 102 votes. Bruce is killing Kemp. 75 to 25. Killing
There
him.
you go, man.
Wow. Murder is slaughtering him. Wow. Getting my butt kicked. Okay, so you got Tom Brands at 8. I had Tom Brands at 7. At number 8, I have Kenny Monday.
How many goals did Kenny have? 2 or 3?
Kenny had 3, and he was also an NCAA champion, and he made 3 Olympic teams. He made 88, 92, and 96, and he beat Dave Schultz in 88, who was a silver medalist in 87 to make the team.
Kenny Monday's not in my top 10.
What?
But here's the thing. Let me. Come on. Okay.
Go ahead. And one thing, he blew out his elbow in 96. Is what I heard.
I missed on Kenny Monday. I missed.
Okay.
I missed on Kenny Monday. Kenny Monday, if for some reason you listen to our podcast,
he just got a job. Did you see that?
Yeah, at North Carolina.
North Carolina.
I missed on. I missed. I just forgot. I missed on Kenny Monday.
Okay.
Kenny Monday should be in the top 10. I blew that one. I really blew it.
So let's go to number 9.
I'm mad at myself now. I'm really mad.
It happens, Tommy.
Gosh, I'm mad.
Okay. Number 9. I go first.
Okay.
I got the man, the legend, Dan Gable. And Tommy, I kind of thought you'd have him higher. I thought, and I thought, well, when I initially thought about making this list, obviously I'm thinking Dan Gable's going to be up there, right? But when I do the research on you can't really quantify.
Dan Gable,
Two-time NCAA champion, 2-time world champion, and then the thing that really pushed me over the edge is everyone said how good he was in the room, but he did try coming back in 1975. Which would have still been that that's still his prime. He's about 26 years old. Let me Google his birthday to see exactly how old he would have been. So in 1975, he's 27. That's definitely your prime. He loses to a 19-year-old Lee Kemp. So This is before Kemp hits his prime. So for that reason, obviously, if you're making a best coaches list,
he's number one.
He's number one. There's no doubt.
Whoever's number 2 is a distant two.
Distant two. So Dan Gable's your number one coach. I just don't feel like he's your number one athlete.
Do you want to hear a funny Dan Gable story? Dan Gable Lee Kemp story?
Okay. Go ahead.
So my dad wrestled at Ohio University for, I want to say, 2 years in 1975 and 6. And he was at the Northern Open in 1975 at whatever weight class Kemp and Gable were at. Yep. And my dad was, he's pretty good, but he wasn't obviously Lee Kemp or Dan Gable level. And he made it to the quarterfinals of the Northern Open. I think that's what it was called. Made it to the quarterfinals. He lost 9-8. Had he won that match, he would have had Dan Gable in the semifinals. Dan Gable would have thumped my dad.
That would have been awesome.
And then, but here's the thing. Here's what's cool. And then Gable went on to lose to Kemp and never wrestled again. So my dad, if he would have won in the quarters, he would have been the trivia question: who was the last guy Dan Gable ever beat?
Wow. Did Gable really never compete in not one match after that, huh?
That was his last one. So my dad always tells people his claim to fame is he was almost the last guy that Dan Gable ever beat.
That's pretty funny.
Anyways.
That is pretty funny.
So I'm with you on your opinion on Gable. He's phenomenal. And anyways, my number 9 is Cael Sanderson.
Wow, you got him pretty low, man. I had him all the way up to 5.
Well, I mean,
wait, and you still haven't said Gable.
Well, we still got one more.
Okay.
He's the greatest college wrestler ever.
Ever.
Hands down. Nobody's going to argue that. I put, 15%
weight. I got a question. I'm sorry. I'm reading about Dan Gable right now. I got a question for you.
Okay.
Dan Gable is the U.S. National Freestyle Champion in 69 and 70. At least that's what it says on here. Why doesn't he go to the World Championships?
Don't know. I don't know.
What the heck? All right, I'm asking Twitter. We'll see if we can get an answer by the end of the show.
Okay.
All right, keep going with Cael.
So best collegiate wrestler ever. Got himself an Olympic title. Was a silver medalist. I wouldn't say, and this is just, I hate talking about these people like this because obviously they had way better careers than you or I. But at the end of the day, I don't think Cael was dominant on the world level ever. And
I agree with that.
And that's so fair. I still have him as the 9th best American wrestler ever. So it's not like I'm, you know what I mean? But that's why I got him at 9.
I think that's fair. I think it's fair. Yep. If you're like I said, I valued the college career quite a bit, say 30 to 40% of my scale. So obviously, when Cael's the number one college wrestler, I value that a lot. Mm-hmm. And then he did have international credentials, but I think if you said which style was better suited for Cael Sanderson, you'd say folk style for sure.
Of course,
no doubt.
Yep.
So I think that's important to note. Okay, and you go with number 10.
Rounding out my top 10 is Dan Gable. And Gable, I almost put him ahead of Cael because unlike Cael, Gable was dominant internationally in the 2 years that he did win the gold. He was absolutely dominant. But I guess I gave Cael a little bit more of a nod for the modernization of the sport, 6 weight classes as opposed to 10, more Soviet republics, and then Cael just flat out had a better collegiate career, not by a wide margin, but he was a...
Oh, God. You there, Tommy? Tommy. F&A. All right, Tommy, we are going to finally finish this episode. We had some significant technical difficulties. So my power went out last night as we were doing this episode.
Significant to say the least.
Abysmal. Well, I mean, if it makes you feel any better, my power was out till 1 a.m. and I had my lights on in my house, but the power went out, so obviously they weren't on. Well, I forgot to turn them back off, so when the power comes on at 1 o'clock, all the lights in the freaking house come on. And I'm like, oh,
there you
God,
go, baby.
Where am I?
That's a nice little wake-up call.
So, yeah, rough night. So let's finish this list right here. I'm on number 10. You gave us your number 10. Your number 10 was Dan Gable, so it's my turn.
My 10 was Gable. My 10 was Gable, but I made the notion and the comment that I missed on Kenny Monday. I would have put Monday ahead of Jackson at 7, but that would have pushed Jackson down to 8, Tom Brands down to 9, and Cael down to 10. I could live with Gable being 10 instead of Cael because Gable had a more dominant career. And now we're here with your 10, so I just wanted to connect the dots there.
Sure. And I kind of gave you a preview last night when we were trying to finish this damn episode, so I already kind of know what you're going to say. My 10 is Kyle Dake, and before you say anything, say I'm crazy, say whatever, let me at least give you my reasoning. Is that fair?
It's fair.
So my 11 through 15, I had 6 guys vying for the spot of number 10. Terry Brands, Kevin Jackson, David Schultz, Ed Bannock, and Stephen Abbas. We're all under consideration. And so when I came to Kyle Dake, here's what I have. And it is kind of situational, and you'll say you're making stuff up, you're fabricating. We talked about how there's 6 weight classes now versus 10. We talked about how the World Championships are more difficult. Kyle Dake, in my opinion, has the second best college career of all time. Internationally, he still hasn't made the team, but he has who you and I both think will be the best American wrestler of all time is the one keeping him off the team. So he can't make the weight class below him. He tried going up. This man went up 26 pounds and almost made an Olympic team. I mean, he's freaking amazing. And on top of that, he's got a win over Dennis Sargouche.
So everything you said is true. I just don't think it makes him the 10th best. I mean, he is the second best college wrestler of all time. He is, in fact, had quite a unique international career thus far. His only significant foe that has established that he's better than him is Jordan Burroughs. And so everything you're saying is true, but
and that's it. Jordan Burroughs is it, Tommy. That's it.
So if Kyle Dake, so here's the thing though. I think what you're trying to sell me and our viewers on is what Kyle Dake is gonna do.
Here's what I'm trying to sell you on, Tommy. I'm not saying, what I'm saying here is results are not all that matter. This is my 10 best wrestlers, whether they have the accomplishments or not. Let's say if Jordan Burroughs got hurt before the World Championships last year, right? Jordan Burroughs is still the best wrestler in that weight class. Although he did not win the world title, he's still the best guy. If there's God forbid, if something really bad happens in Rio and America says we're going home, Jordan Burroughs is still the best wrestler in America. In the world at 74 kilograms. So just because the results aren't there, and we have went from 10 weight classes to 6, we've increased by at least 19 countries. I mean, if we go to 5 weight classes,
he just hasn't done enough.
He hasn't done enough because he's behind Jordan Burroughs. If any of these other
but here's the thing, Ben. Why didn't you have Brandon Slay in your top 10? Brandon Slay beat Satia, who's argued the greatest wrestler of all time, and he beat him in the Olympics.
He beat him one time. His college career wasn't fantastic.
Yeah, guess what? That's how many times Dake has beaten Sargouche. And that's the rub there, brother, is that you're waiting his college career, and I get it. I mean, Dake's an animal. He's an animal, and he might be on that list one day, but I don't think he belongs in the top 10 right now. I love you, Kyle Dake. If you're listening.
let me put this at you. think about the way they've decreased these weight classes, right? John Smith's competitive weight class was 135.5 pounds, I believe.
Yep.
Is that correct? So right now we only have 125 or 143. So John Smith, given the current weight class situation, might not have the amount of world titles that he has, right? Because he's either got to go up 8 pounds or down 11. The amount of weight classes significantly impacts the amount of medals that we can win and the ability of people to be champions. I mean,
listen,
Tommy,
everything you're saying to validate Kyle Dake being in the top 10 is true. It's true that it's harder. It's true that there's less weight classes. It's true that Dake's done well. It's just number 10.
I think if you put him on the mat with Dave Schultz, listen, I think if you put him on the mat with Dave Schultz, Kyle Dake can win that match.
So you're saying that Kyle Dake has had a better career than Terry Brand. You're saying that Kyle Dake has had a better career.
I think he's a better wrestler. I think he's a better wrestler. I think he's been inhibited by the Jordan Burroughs effect, like everybody is. I mean, Tommy, if we're making a college list, we could argue David Taylor into the top 10. We could really argue that. And Dake is freaking 17-0 against David Taylor. I mean, David Taylor is freaking outstanding, and he can't beat Dake.
It all goes back to the college weight. You weight college more heavily than I do. Dake is number 2 in college.
But I think if you take 14 Russian Republics out of this, and you take Jordan Burroughs out of the equation, Dake's got about 4 or 5 world medals by this point.
But he doesn't.
But he does if we take, so we got to look circumstantially. I mean, that's like saying, well, if we had 2 weight classes, 160 and heavyweight, how many medals does John Smith have? Well, he doesn't have any. Does that mean he's not great?
What we're getting the conversation of is if my aunt had a you-know-what, she'd be my uncle. And
well, that's what we're doing right now because we don't have an exact, Tommy, we don't have an exact definition of
what
the 10 best Americans are. We don't have an exact definition. This is our definition.
Okay, well, so fine. But Dake at number 10, I don't think he belongs.
I think he's
of
that
all
good.
Time.
I think he's that good. And listen, Tommy, don't forget, I don't like Kyle Dake. I don't like him.
Yeah, he wouldn't wrestle you in Agon.
He's a freaking chicken. But I don't like him. But I respect his skill set. I respect his competitive abilities. And frankly, when I'm building my list, I'm looking through these. And when we talk about all the factors we talked about at the beginning of the show, I think he's someone that has to be included. I just think that.
Listen, I agree that if we had more weight classes, if Jordan Burroughs didn't exist, and there was one Russia instead of 17 Russias, I do agree that Kyle Dake would have multiple world medals and possibly some gold medals. But you know what, Ben? That's not true. He doesn't have that. And when you're measuring greatness is rising above all circumstances.
But no one rises above Jordan Burroughs. You don't rise above Jordan Burroughs.
And so here's what I'm saying. Kyle Dake has done a better job than I've ever done in those circumstances. I'm not saying that. But we're splitting hairs here, and he's still young. He very well could finish his career in the top 5 or 6, I would bet. I really believe that about him. So I'm not knocking his abilities or where he could be 4 or 5 years from now. But right now, as it sits, I'm not putting him ahead of, Dan Gable, Sanderson, Terry Brands. I've got a lot more on the list of people that didn't, make the list. I mean, you got Stephen Abbas. This guy has 3 NCAA titles. He's got 4 or 5 collegiate losses. His only loss was to Mavlet Batirov, who was arguably one of the best 10 Russian wrestlers ever, and he's not even on the list.
Oh, maybe I should put Abbas in front of him. I really did think about putting Abbas in the 10th spot. I really did. And then something just told me to put Kyle Dake there.
Terry Brands should be in front of Kyle Dake. Listen, the guy had 2 NCAA titles. He had a handful of collegiate losses. He won 2 world championships. He was bronze in 2000 after This guy is I can't believe I have him on my honorable mention. I'm ashamed of it, but I just couldn't fit him on there.
There can only be 10, Tommy. There can only be 10.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, do you want to do a college list?
No, let's do it. I'm in. Let's go.
Okay. Right now?
No, I don't have time, but let's do it next week. Next week,
listen.
dude, I'm ready. Hey, Ben.
Yeah.
Hey, Ben. So next week we'll do college. You know what we should do the week after?
Well, the week after we got to talk about the Olympics.
Oh, gosh, yeah, that Olympic thing. Well, one episode we should do the most hyped coming out of high school, and that doesn't mean the most overhyped. For example,
sure.
You know, you got Alan Freed, Kerry Collette, Damian Hahn, Steve Mocco.
Pico.
Those are, what's that?
In my opinion, Pico's the best high school wrestler ever.
Right, so that we need to have an episode of that because I don't agree with. Actually, yeah, I think I agree with that.
He freaking almost made the Olympic team at a real weight class.
Well, you got Cejudo. You got. So, anyways,
wasn't in high school when he made the team.
It's like we should do what we should call these guys are prodigies. We should do a prodigy episode.
Okay.
Where, I want to do the top 10 college first, though. What do you think?
All right, let's. I'll look at the Olympic schedule. We might be able to fit that in before the Olympic competition starts. I'm not sure exactly on the days. But either way, Tommy, this was a lot of fun. I got to run. I know you got to run. Hopefully we'll have this published. And hopefully we can get some good feedback. And maybe someone will transcribe this article. So there's actually an article on the internet about the top 10 American wrestlers ever that has a decent amount of legitimacy.
You got it, man. Sounds good.
All right. Have a great night, Tommy.
All right, brother. We'll see you. Bye.
You are listening to the T-Row and Funky Show, brought to you by Defend Soap. Defend what you have built.